I'm absolutely delighted that Anthony Oppenheimer of Hascombe and Valiant stud has won the Duke of Devonshire Award. It's an award for someone who's contributed enormously to the British breeding industry, and Anthony, and particularly recently we've seen the enormous success of Golden Horn, Cracksman, Starcatcher and others. So I think he's a very worthy winner of this award. It's an award that is something that every breeder, I'm sure, aspires to win. And I know Anthony is absolutely thrilled to receive that award.
Well, I have to say it is a great honour, and I'm absolutely amazed. It was not something that never entered my mind that I could possibly win. I was chairman of the TBA for about 4 years, 3 or 4 years, and even then, I never entered my mind when we were giving out to all these famous people that I would actually get this honour. I mean, it is terrible, tremendously exciting. When I was in the 11th Hussars in the National Service, my father bought some horses for the first time ever at Newmarket. He inherited from his father a small amount of money. And when he bought the horses, he met an old chum of his who was at Cambridge with him, Nicky Morris. Nicky Morris owned, in those days, the Banstead Manor Stud. So Nicky said, well, look, Philip, this is your first excursion into racing. Why don't you, we'd have 1 or 2 mares or fillies in training and then keep them at my stud at Banstead Manor. So my father thought it's a great idea, and they were great friends. And this went on for some time. Then, sadly, Nicky Morris died at the age of 48. I used to go and stay at Banstead Manor when he was there, but before that, I used to ask Nicky Morris masses of questions, but he had all these wonderful stallions out. I must have bored him stiff with these questions. So he went and bought the Hascombe stud, which is just around the corner. I think it was only about 77 acres then. It was quite small. It belonged to Sir Adrian Jarvis. And Sir Adrian died and left it to his sisters, who looked after it for about half a year, 3/4 of a year, and found they couldn't afford it. So they were sold to my father. And so that immediately, they insisted upon all the horses being sold with the stud. So immediately one got sort of much more interested in the breeding side. But basically, when I was in the 11th Hussars, they were mad keen on national hunt racing, and I used to go to Hascombe and all these sort of places, Grand Miniature Meeting, Sandown, everything. So I was wrapped up in this sort of the national hunt side. And it is only when my father started to buy 1 or 2 flat horses that I became really interested. But I was still much more interested, and still am today, on breeding. My father was 60% ownership, 40% breeding. I'm 80% breeding, 20% ownership. There's the difference. So really I'm a breeder right down to my toes. I joined my father about 10 years later after he bought the stud. And I went round with my ex-wife round all the studs, and I got more and more interested in the breeding side. So that's where I stand now. Of course, I have a few horses in training. The Golden Horn was, one of those fantastic things that happened once in a lifetime. I bred him, and I didn't think he would stay 1.5 miles, but we were very fortunate that Frankie Dettori had just joined John Gosden. He had been there before. And so Frankie was riding him, and he said to John, look, this horse can win the 1,000, 2,000 guineas, but he's immature. I advise you not to, run him, because he could ruin it if you run him too early. So we put him in a 1.25 mile race, and then we ran him in the Dante. And I was absolutely convinced, because if you look at his breeding, there isn't a great deal of speed in his pedigree. So I was convinced he'd never stay more than 1.5 miles, 1.25 miles, Anyway, Dante was 1.2 miles. And at the end of the Dante, the jockey couldn't pull him up. So I thought, well, that makes 1.3 miles. So we'd got to find a furlong if we're going to run in the Derby. So obviously it was the greatest moment of my life to win the Derby. It was absolutely fantastic. And it's even more of a shock when you don't expect it. And then we had, of course, Cracksman coming up. And he was really actually a very, very good horse too. And if you ask John Gosden, he will say that, that Golden Horn was the better of the two, but I think it's marginal. I have a feeling Cracksman will be an extremely good sire. Frankly Darling, who won the Ribsdale, and the previous year Star Catcher won it at Ascot, both at Ascot. Frankly Darling ran third in the Oaks, but I've also got Dame Marriott, who's actually been running very well for me too. So both will be at the stud at the end of this year. I had On the House, who won the 1,000 guineas, and Dancing Rocks, who won the Nassau Stakes. Both now have departed, but both were very solid fillies. I think On the House won she won the 1,000 guineas, but she also won the Sussex Stakes. And Dancing Rocks, the same year, won the Nassau Stakes, won the Oaks and everything. So that was good, very exciting. So they're sort of backbone of the stud. But I mean, really, I'm very keen on breeding, and I think British breeding is really doing exceptionally well, if not the best in the world. And if we look at the sales and see how many foreign buyers are buying and how much money is coming into the country, I think the breeding industry is doing incredibly well. And you remember, perhaps you won't remember, none of us can remember, we go back to the last World War, Second World War, First World War, when the TBA, the Prime Minister, stopped racing. And the TBA sent 5 members up to see the Prime Minister. And he then it started racing again in the World War. I mean, it was only delayed, I think, 3 months, something like that. So the TBA has been so instrumental. I mean, that's just a long distance away. But ever since then, there have been so many other mountains that they've climbed and achieved for British racing. Well, I never had the ambition of winning this award, but now I won it. It's fantastic, and I'm really honoured by it. I mean, my father would be absolutely thrilled if he could look down. And so I think this is very much a highlight of my life.